Over the last several weeks, the Secretary of Education of the United States presented Harvard with a series of demands that are unprecedented in the history of American education. There is no connection between canceling the grants for a research lab that is doing advancing knowledge on how to treat cancer and the presumed concerns of the government with anti-Semitism. There is no cause and effect connection between those two things. I don't know, frankly, who would win when people died. Thousands of people died because of treatments that were not developed, because the research that we have been doing was interrupted. I don't see how that serves any interest of the government or of any party in the United States, which I think would be a big loss, frankly, for humanity. Not a big loss for Harvard, a loss for science, a loss for humanity. No question that if this ban comes to pass and Harvard becomes a place that cannot have international students or scholars, we will no longer be Harvard. We will be the institution that we were in 1850.
What do you tell your students, those students who are part of your close circles, your disciplines from not Trump's America?
This is not over.
A significant battle is unfolding between Harvard University and the Trump administration, with tensions escalating dramatically in recent weeks. The administration has frozen over $2.2 billion research fund to Harvard, attempted to bar international students from attending the university, and now directing federal agencies to terminate remaining contracts worth approximately $100 million. In fact, to talk about this very unwinding situation with us, Professor Fernando Reimers, Ford Foundation Professor of the Practice of International Education at Harvard Graduate School of Education. So thank you so much and appreciate you joining us here at Times Now. Back home here in India, there's a lot of curiosity and perhaps a lot of anxiety also amongst the aspirants who wants to go to the Harvard University. And in fact, with nearly 700 to 800 students currently at Harvard, how is this ban actually affecting them? And perhaps what do you tell your students, those students who are part of your close circles, your disciplines from not Trump's America, often the product of the labors of immigrants?
So I spoke to all the international students at the School of Education yesterday because we're celebrating their graduation. And I will be very happy to send you my remarks later if you want to read them. I told them that the reason we are immensely privileged that they are here is not only because we think they have a right to be here and we want them to learn here, is because we learn from them, is because together we learn things. Let me give you a very specific example. I'm right now writing a book on the role of AI in education with 3 of my graduate students. They are all international students from different countries. Every year in a course I teach on education policy, I engage my students in teams. By design, these are teams with people from different countries, and they work as consultants to a government at a local, district, provincial, or state level all over the world. They have worked for many governments in India, actually. And they identify a problem. For example, during COVID, everyone was wondering, how do we mitigate the impact of the pandemic on learning? So this year, we focus on how do we support the most marginalized students in their education? And those teams spend a whole semester understanding the root causes of the problem, looking at international literature, and then finding a solution. So that achieves 3 goals. It mobilizes the talent of the university in service of people who are doing important things in the world. Second, it connects students to real problems. It helps them develop the skills to real problems. But especially, it teaches them to work in cross-national teams, from which a lot of creativity, a lot of imagination happens. When students come together and they haven't been in the same places, they're more creative. They learn from people who don't share their own biases, who have seen different things. So in effect, my class is a global laboratory of educational experience. I teach the students to use the diversity that they bring to be able to see the world as a vast global laboratory of educational innovation and to draw on that to generate these solutions. The papers that some of the students write are so valuable that I invite the very best papers to then work with me for another semester and turn them into a book. And we publish that book. And that book is read by tons of people. So now this is one very specific example of how international students, when they come here, contribute. And the larger point I was making is, not only am I glad that they're here because I think they deserve an education at a place like this, just like I had the opportunity to have when I was an international student in '83, but it's because we're only able to do the kinds of things I'm describing to advance knowledge because they are here. We would not be able to do it. Now, you ask me, how are the students responding at the moment? Well, obviously, I would say the first response that I heard yesterday as I mingled with them in celebrating their graduation is confusion, is trying to understand why is this happening. These are students who came to the United States, first of all, because they were seeking a very good education, because they admire Harvard, but also to some extent because they admired the United States. They admire the values of this country, the fact that we have good universities. And some of them find themselves very confused in seeing they know they haven't committed any crimes. And all of a sudden, the government is saying, maybe you can't continue to be here. Maybe you cannot stay and do some practical training. And they ask with every good reason, why? Why have I done? What laws have I broken? So I think, sadly, these incidents are damaging the reputation of the United States as a country ruled by laws and by reason. And they are communicating to students that it is possible in this society for a government to abuse its power, to advance goals that nobody understands, that haven't been clearly communicated, to in effect have an arbitrary use of power, to advance goals that don't seem to be public goals or goals in the public interest, but private goals of some sort. So I'd say there is confusion. There is certainly damage that is being done to the lives and the careers of these people. And there's potentially damage that is being caused not to the image of Harvard, to the reputation of the government of the United States. And I think that's very sad indeed. I would imagine that around the world, the governments, the prime ministers, are calling the ambassadors of the United States and demanding an explanation. Countries that have lots of foreign students here would have every right to demand an urgent meeting with the ambassadors of the US and say, can you explain to us, why are you mistreating our people this way? What laws have they broken? What are you trying to do? Are we still allies? I would hope that as the government receives that kind of feedback, maybe it would cause them to reconsider these arbitrary actions and to follow the law.
I just want for you to give a message to all the international students or perhaps the aspirants who are looking at Harvard University, given the current situation, what you want to tell all those students, be here it in India or be it in any part of the globe?
Well, what I can tell them is that at Harvard, everybody, from the president to the last person who works here, we absolutely understand that we cannot be Harvard without international students, and that we are doing absolutely everything within our power to make sure that we remain a university that is open to international students. This is not over. I do not know how this will be resolved tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow. At Harvard, we have a long history. We have existed for almost 4 centuries. I am confident that over the long span of history, we will remain an institution committed to those values. Will we be able to act on those commitments next academic year? I don't know. The year after that, I don't know. I hope it is not the case that for the next 3 years, every day is worse than the last day. But even if that were to be the case, 3 years is a very short period in the life of a 4-century-year-old institution. This institution will survive this government. People in this institution will write the history of this moment, and they will shape a better future, even amidst the challenges that we're experiencing. So my message for the students who are hearing this is that I can assure you that we know You belong here, and we will do everything we can to welcome you. I hope we can act on those commitments this year and next and the year after that. We will do our very best.